The stairs beneath Hollowmere opened one by one. White light crawled down into the mountain. Not warm light, not safe light. It looked like moonlight trapped inside old bones. I stood at the top of the stairwell with the heart furnace lantern in my hand. The black key on my wrist was fully open. Marin stood on my right, rifle loaded. Astra Vane stood on my left, one hand on her saber, eyes fixed on the lantern, like she was watching her own heart leave her body. Behind us, Elira and Soren waited with the guards. No one wanted to breathe too loudly. From below, the ancient voice whispered again. Second Warden. The sound moved through the stone. You brought the heart. I tightened my grip on the lantern, and you asked for mercy. The darkness below laughed. It sounded tired. Mercy is what weak men call a locked door. Marin looked at me. I already dislike him. Stand in line. We descended. The stairs went deeper than Hollowmere should have allowed. Past the geothermal chamber, past the old service tunnels, past stone that no builder in this age had touched. The walls changed from concrete to black rock, then from black rock to metal, older than rust. Names were carved into the walls, thousands of them, some human, some not. Some changed shape when I looked at them. Astra brushed her fingers over one carving and pulled back as if burned. What is this place? The Gravecell answered before I could. A Kyrie corridor, failed shelters, failed wardens, failed worlds. Marin heard only my silence. Riven, graveyard, I said. Of what? Attempts. At the bottom of the stairs stood a gate. It was not large. That made it worse. A huge gate promises power. A small gate promises intimacy. This one was made of black iron, shaped like a shelter door. On its center was the same key as my wrist. The heart furnace lantern flared. The gate opened. Beyond it was a city, not a chamber, not a tomb. A city. Black towers rose beneath the mountain, their windows glowing with pale blue fire. Streets curved around frozen fountains. Bridges crossed empty darkness. And everywhere, behind glass walls and crystal cells, people stood perfectly still. Men, women, children, soldiers, doctors, kings, beggars, all preserved upright, eyes closed, mouths slightly open. A city of bodies that had forgotten how to die. Marin whispered, "What did he do?" A figure waited at the center of the road. Tall, thin, draped in a coat of black frost, his face was hidden behind a smooth iron mask. But I already knew him, the shadow from my visions, the man on the throne of locked gates, the First Warden. He spread his arms. Welcome to the place every survivor begs to enter. I raised my blade. Name. The mask tilted. I had one. Then I gave it away so the moon could never take it. That is not an answer. It is the only answer that kept me alive. Astra stepped forward. You are the thing under the mountain. I am the man who kept humanity from extinction. Marin aimed her rifle. By turning them into museum pieces, the First Warden looked toward the crystal cells. By preserving what fire could not protect, He touched one glass wall inside. A little girl opened her eyes. For 1 second she looked alive, then the light faded and she slept again. Astra's hand tightened around her saber. The First Warden sighed. In every black frost cycle, shelters fail. Leaders break, food rots, medicine expires, hope becomes a weapon. So I created mercy that could not spoil. I felt the Gravecell stir, stort rule, preservation rule. Living beings cannot be stored. The First Warden turned toward me, as if hearing the thought. Your version cannot store living bodies. Mine can. The city seemed to breathe. Thousands of sleeping mouths opened slightly. A whisper passed over us. Let us out. Let us sleep. Let us die. Let us live. Marin's face went pale. They're conscious. Sometimes, the First Warden said. That is the cost of eternity. I stepped forward. You called me here for the heart furnace. Yes, why? Because the moon is cracking. When it opens, surface shelters will die first. Hollowmere, Lake Hall, every warm room you think you own, all of it will become ash under white light. He reached out one long hand. Give me the furnace pulse, and I will open the deep vault. We can store your people before the moon hatches. Astra's voice was cold. Store them like these. Alive, trapped, preserved, Marin said. That is not life. The First Warden looked at her. Spoken like someone who has not watched 10,000 children freeze while their mothers begged for one more hour. Silence fell, because cruelty was easy to hate, but grief wearing reason was harder. Then a scream echoed from above, not from the tomb, from Hollowmere. A radio crackled at Marin's belt. Dr. Saul, respond. Marin grabbed it. This is Marin. A woman's voice shook through static. It's Nara. She's in labor. Marin froze. Everyone did. No child had been born since the Black Frost. Not alive, not for long. The First Warden slowly turned his mask toward me. Oh, one word too. Much interest. Marin pressed the radio. How far apart are the contractions? Too fast. She's cold but burning. The baby. Doctor, the baby is making frost on the walls, Astra whispered. Impossible. The First Warden laughed softly. No, not impossible. Rare. I lifted the lantern. What is the child? The future, he said, or the door through which the future dies. I did not wait. I turned back toward the gate. The First Warden raised one hand. The black city sealed itself. Every door slammed shut at once. A deep lock clicked through the air. You cannot leave yet, Second Warden. My eyes narrowed. Move. You came to ask how to stop the moon. I am answering. The child must be stored before it draws the prisoner's gaze. Marin aimed at his head. Open the gate. The First Warden ignored her. New life after the Black Frost carries heat the moon can smell. If that child cries under the black sky, every dead thing within 50 kilometers will hear. Astra said, then we protect it. The First Warden's mask turned toward her. You could not protect a lake. Astra drew her saber. I opened the Gravecell, steel unfolded behind me. Blades, shields, chains, the First Warden did not flinch. You think I fear storage? The crystal cells along the street cracked open. Bodies stepped out, preserved soldiers in old silver armor. Their eyes were closed, their mouths open. Voices came from inside them. Protect the vault, obey the warden, preserve the warm. Marin fired. The bullet struck a soldier's chest and vanished into black mist. Astra moved next, cutting through the first soldier's neck. The head fell. The body kept fighting. I dropped a steel beam from the Gravecell and crushed 3 at once. They reformed slowly, pulled together by stored memory. The First Warden walked away through the battle. Your mercy makes you slow, Riven Vale. I froze. He had used my name. Not the true one. But still, I vault. Stepped through a black door appearing in front of him. My blade stopped at his mask. Try again. Behind the mask he smiled. Kalian. The world cracked. Not physically. Inside me, the name hit like a key turning in a lock I had never known existed. My knees almost buckled. A memory exploded through my mind. I stood in a black city wearing silver armor. Not Riven, not exactly. People knelt before me. A woman held out. A baby wrapped in frost. Someone shouted that the moon was opening. Someone else begged me to close the gate, then blood-white fire. A door, my own hand locking it, and behind it thousands screaming my name, Kalian. I gasped back into the tomb. Maverin was shouting. Astra was bleeding from the arm. The First Warden leaned close. You were prepared before you were born. That is why the Gravecell chose you. I forced myself upright. I choose what it means. No, he said. You remember what it means. From Marin's radio came another scream. Then a baby cried. The sound was tiny, fragile, impossible. Every preserved body in the black city turned toward the stairs, far above us. Hollowmere's alarms began screaming. The moon had heard. The First Warden extended his hand. Now you understand. Give me the child. I will store her before she becomes a beacon. I looked up toward the shelter, toward the sound of a newborn crying in a world that had forgotten birth. Then I looked at the sleeping city around me. Eternal safety, endless prison. No. The First Warden went still. I lifted the heart furnace lantern. You asked me to bring mercy. The white flame inside the lantern brightened. So, watch carefully. I opened the Gravecell. Not above him, not beneath him. Around the cells, every mirror plate left in storage appeared across the black city. Every polished shield, every scrap of reflective metal. The heart furnace pulse struck them. White light split into 1,000 blades, not enough to destroy the vault. Enough to blind it. The preserved soldiers faltered. Their stored commands broke for 1 second. 1 second was all Astra needed. She cut through the soldiers, blocking the gate. Marin threw a heat charge into the lock. Riven! I hurled the lantern toward the gate. The white flame hit the black iron. The door screamed open. The First Warden reached for me. His fingers passed through my shoulder like cold smoke. Pain tore down my spine. He whispered, "If the child dies, it is your mercy that kills her." I grabbed his wrist. For the first time, he felt solid. "Then I will make my mercy dangerous." I drove my blade through his palm. Black frost burst from the wound. He stepped back, not hurt enough, but surprised. Good. We ran. The escape was not clean. Nothing under Hollowmere wanted us to leave with the furnace pulse. As we reached the first landing, the walls opened and released chains made from black frost. They did not aim for our bodies. They aimed for our mouths. One wrapped around Astra's jaw. Another snapped toward Marin's throat. I understood too late. The First Warden did not need to kill us. He needed to take the names we carried. I opened the Gravecell and dropped a wall of stored iron bars between us and the chains. The bars froze instantly. Then cracked Marin, cut herself free with a surgical blade, and shouted. They react to speech. Astra nodded once and stopped breathing through her mouth. We moved in silence after that. No orders, no curses. Only footsteps, gunfire, and the sound of chains crawling along stone. One chain caught my wrist. The black key flared. A voice whispered beside my ear. Kalian. This time, I did not fall. I opened the Gravecell and stored the chain itself. For half a second, its cold entered my storage space. Every object inside rattled. Food cans burst. Glass cracked. The chain was alive with memory. I forced it into the deepest corner of the Gravecell and locked it behind 3 steel doors. The effort nearly dropped me to my knees. But the path opened, and above us the newborn cried again. That tiny sound pulled me upward harder than any command, up the stairs, through the shaking tunnels, past walls where carved names bled silver light. The baby's cry grew louder with every step. So did the dead outside Hollowmere. By the time we reached the geothermal chamber, the estate was under attack. Frost shades clawed at every outer gate. Not thousands, tens of thousands. They had come for the child. We burst into the medical wing. The room was covered in frost. Nara lay unconscious on the bed. Marin ran to her. Beside the bed stood a nurse holding a newborn girl wrapped in thermal cloth. The baby had silver eyes, not moon silver, warmer. Like starlight seen through smoke, frost bloomed on the wall behind her. But the air around her was warm. Illyra stood by the door with a bloodied shovel, guarding the room. Soren was on the floor, holding his side, bleeding. He looked up at me. They came through the lower vent. His voice shook. I closed it. I looked at the dead frost shade beside him. Its skull was caved in. Soren gave a broken laugh. First useful thing I've done, maybe. I did not praise him. Marin took the baby. The child stopped crying the moment her eyes met mine. The black key on my wrist opened. The baby reached one tiny hand toward it. Every light in Hollowmere steadied. The dead outside went silent. Then the child spoke. Not with a baby's voice, with a voice like warm glass. You are not the owner of the Gravecell. The room froze. You are the door. A crack of thunder rolled across the black sky. The broken moon opened wider. The baby smiled. then began crying like a normal child. Marin stared at me. Riven. I looked at the baby, at the frost on the walls, at the people gathered behind me, at Illyra still holding the door, at Soren bleeding on the floor, at Astra gripping her saber with shaking hands. And beneath us, far below Hollowmere, the First Warden began laughing. The radio in the control room crackled. His voice came through every speaker. "Protect her if you can, Second Warden." Outside, the dead began kneeling again, not to the moon this time, to the child. Astra whispered, "What is she?" I did not know, but I knew what the moon wanted. I knew what the First Warden feared. And I knew what every monster in the valley would come to take. Marin wrapped the newborn tighter. Nara named her before she passed out. What name? Leora. The baby opened her silver eyes again. The black key burned against my wrist. Leora, light after snow, hope after betrayal. A future small enough to hold, dangerous enough to end the world. In my first life, I built a shelter to survive. In this life, I built a kingdom without meaning to. But now the kingdom had something no wall could fully protect. A child, a beacon, a door, and every dead thing beneath the broken moon had just learned her name.